authorized to fire at will.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I'm TC, this Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. I am unprepared tonight. I was not ready for this, but I had some information come my way, and I needed to be able to share it with you guys because I think it's very pertinent for a lot of reasons. And one of those reasons is because of the fact that we have yet again another example of, I don't know how to say it other than to say that a individual who victimizes uh, people was cut a cushy deal. And so as I'm waiting for the audience to build, I'm going to kind of go through all of my normal rigmarole. If you'll bear with me. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, do so. If you haven't liked the videos that I put out yet, do so. Share this out if you will, wherever you can. Tell other people to tune in, and just be prepared to be outraged. And down below, you can see a little thing that says join. Go down there and pick a level of support to become one of the act localist that I have come to greatly appreciate. You know, Jugglassus is here. He's one of my act localists. Jugs, you told me the other day that you were trying to upgrade membership and you were running into a snag. Let me know if that continues. You can send me an email at mbrrpodcast@yahoo.com. So maybe we could talk about it. You could tell me what's going on. mbrrpodcast@yahoo.com. But for those of you that haven't yet and you like the content, you appreciate what I do or enjoy it, even when I'm, maybe on one of my rants, because I know my rants can be somewhat enjoyable for some of you. I think you live vicariously through me when I rant, is what I think happens. So anyway, yeah, I said what I said. It's it's with a heavy heart that I tell you this story. And like I said, as I wait for the audience to build um, and for people to share this out, if you do pick a membership level, by the way, and you pick the top tier membership level, you will get credit as a show producer for the show, for all of my series and all of my independent videos and lives that I do. So I have 3 basic series that I do. I have TC and Friends Monday Night Musings, I have Libertarian Lowdown, and I have my Drive Time Dialectics. And then I put out other videos and shorts. For videos, shorts, and the series, you'll get show producer credits. The shorts, not so much, just because there's not a lot of room to put stuff in for descriptions. So this evening, I was sitting at home, kind of minding my own business, and I'd been interacting on a couple of groups for the Rochester, Minnesota area, talking about Trooper Shane Roper, which, of course, my goal is been to keep this story alive. I want people to continue to remain brutally aware of the fact that this man is still out. By the time he goes to his first appearance in court on August 29th, if he ever makes it there, honestly, he will have been free for over 3 months since he murdered Olivia Flores. And so I received a message from a friend and supporter, a fan, follower of my show, my content. And I know the reason that the individual sent this to me was because of watching my interactions with people today talking about Trooper Shane Roper and the fact that County Attorney Mark Ostrem of the Olmsted County Attorney's Office is notorious for cutting deals. And I have been telling people over and over and over again, look, you guys have got to stay on this. You have got to stay in touch with the Olmsted County Attorney's Office. You have got to push Ostrom to not cut cushy deals. And so this friend and supporter of the show messaged me and shared the story with me. Now, I want to give you some background. I want to imagine that about 17 years ago, you're a mother or a father, and your 14-year-old daughter comes to you and says, I was raped. And you're left to process this. You're left to wrap your mind around how this could happen to your child. This flesh of your flesh, bone of your bone, your blood, your flesh and blood. You're saying to yourself, what? How does this happen? Who was it? Who was this monster? Where were you? Were you at a park? Were you walking home from school? What happened? And no, it was a, an adult male figure of a friend of mine in this person's life. And your jaw drops. How could you do this to a child that you know? How, how could you victimize a child that you, I mean, it's bad enough to victimize a child that you don't know. How could you victimize a child that you know, that you see, that you have contact with and connection to? How can you do this? As a member of this community, this Rochester area, how can you do this? These things don't happen. They don't happen to they don't happen to me. They don't happen to my family. They don't happen to us. This doesn't happen to us. This happens to other people. This happens to people who don't love their kids. This happens to anybody but us, right? Right? These are the thoughts that go through your mind when something like this happens. So you report this. You report this crime, this inhumane monster. You report him 14 years ago. Excuse me, 17 years ago. You report this. And you trust law enforcement. You trust the criminal justice system. You trust the entirety of the criminal justice system, from the street cops to the detectives to the prosecuting attorneys. You trust them all to have their facts straight. You trust them to take this person. You did this to an unsuspecting child. You victimized this child. We trust you. Protect and serve, right? We we want to believe that this is what you do. We trust you. And you're thinking, wow, we're going to get somewhere. That he's arrested, he's charged, he goes to court, and he faces his day of judgment. And then you find out that the prosecuting attorney, the county attorney of Olmsted County, agrees to a plea deal. 0 days in jail, with basically 1.5 years hanging over his head. and to register as a sex offender and do classes 17 years ago. He admits to what he did. He admits to what he did. An adult man victimized the weakest and the most vulnerable amongst us. And he gets no jail time and a year and a half hanging over his head. But he's got to complete classes and register as a sex offender. Now I want you to fast forward to May, ironically, of this year. That's what you need to do. You need to fast forward to May of this year. May 15th, 2024, 3 days before Olivia Flores is murdered by Trooper Shane Roper in Olmsted County in the city of Rochester. And the news breaks. What's that breaking news? Folks, bear with me, please. This is incredibly important. They sound unrelated, but they are incredibly important. The news breaks that 43-year-old Kenneth Archer of Chatfield, Minnesota, is accused of sexually assaulting 2 children in 2014, 2016, and 2017. And he was sentenced after he pled guilty to 2 of 6 criminal sexual conduct charges in Olmsted County Court. He was sentenced to 364 days in prison or a treatment program, not both, or a treatment program, which he would be required to start within 30 days of his sentencing. This is the man who 17 years ago was given a little tap on the fingers by the Olmsted County Attorney and told him, now don't do it again, after he raped a 14-year-old girl. Now, this time Holt was given 25 years of probation, and under his probation, he will be required to register as a predatory offender and attend a sex offender program. If Holt violates his probation, he will be required to serve up to 4 years in prison at a Minnesota correctional facility in St. Cloud. Now, here's where we get down to the meat of it, folks. Olmsted County Attorney Mark Ostrem said the sentences seem backwards, but rehabilitation for offenders can take longer than a maximum penalty and still keep the community safe. See, all that Mark Ostrom's interested here, he's not interested in the victim or victims. See, this is Attorney Mark Ostrom, County Attorney Mark Ostrom, County Prosecuting Attorney Mark Ostrom, the big head honcho of the Olmsted County Attorney's Office. He only cares about rehabilitation of a man who 17 years ago ruined, for lack of better terminology, traumatized, put an indelible mark on the life of a 14-year-old girl who, to this very day, literally to this very day, is so traumatized by what this man does that to even think about him, to think about what he's done, that it makes it hard for her to function. And then her parents have to see that and deal with that. And Mark Ostrom lets this man off with no jail time, no prison time, if he completes and starts a sex offender program after he's already had to do that. Did he learn 17 years ago? Did he get rehabilitated 17 years ago? No, Mark Ostrom, what are you doing for your community? Like, I don't give a flying rat's ass about whether or not he could be rehabilitated. How about looking at the fact that he's done this before, Mark Ostrom? How about looking at the fact that this man, 17 years ago, did this? And it's not just to one. He is believed to have done it to multiple family members. But we need to worry about rehabilitating him. We need to worry about rehabilitating Kenneth. And that takes longer than a prison sentence. I don't know, Mark Ostrom. How about you come up with some way to make sure he stays in prison? So many people have harassed me. So many people have attacked me and said I'm overreacting when I say that Mark Ostrom will go soft on Trooper Shane Roper. So many people said I have an axe to grind or that I have a vendetta against Ostrom and the law enforcement community. And you know what? You might be right. I might have an axe to grind. I might have a vendetta. I might have a reason to be mad. I might have a reason to not trust people in the law enforcement community, in the criminal justice system. I might have a reason to not believe that Mark Ostrom has the best interest of the whole community in mind, but that Mark Ostrom is more interested in this political hug-a-thug mentality that says you have to worry about the rehabilitation of the individual for the safety of the community, as opposed to just purely the safety of the community. See, this is the exact same mindset that allowed Trooper Shane Roper to have not one, not two, not three, but 4 previous accidents with minor little, now, that's a bad boy, don't do it again. And it took him murdering Olivia Flores on May 18th for people to sit up and take notice, because we're never going to know about Trooper Shane Roper's activities until he murdered Olivia Flores. But that could have been anybody. It could have been all of the people in that 3-car accident, except for him. And Mark Ostrom has the balls in sentencing Kenny Boy to say, sometimes rehabilitation takes longer than a prison sentence. I'm going to read the sleaze ball, this corrupt county attorney words again. Olmsted County Attorney Mark Ostrem said the sentences can seem backwards, but rehabilitation for offenders can take longer than a maximum penalty and still keep the community safe. And he goes on, when somebody goes off to prison, they're not required to do anything except be there. When somebody is on probation, they have a lot of very strict requirements, Ostrom said. They're just required to be at prison. That's nothing. No, you could require that they take treatment classes in prison. Mark, you know that. They can be required to take part in offenders classes, whether it be drug rehabilitation or sex offender classes. Now, you're saying, well, how could you know that, TC? Because I watched sex offenders have to go to treatment while they were incarcerated in the Olmsted County Adult Detention Center while they were serving their time. And so So the family of these girls, this friend of the show, 17 years ago, her daughter's victimized, has been living with that her entire life, and Kenneth has gone on with his. Nothing, no repercussions. Nothing changed for him. This friend had to see this guy working in a bar and grill in Rochester, in downtown Rochester. Had to see him. He just went on with his life. So, no, you don't just go and be in prison. They can require you to do all sorts of things in prison. They can mandate that you do things in prison. They can require that you take classes. They could demand that you take classes. But no, Mark Ostrom cuts a cushy deal for this sleazeball. So you got a sleazeball protecting the sleazeball. And who's protecting the kids? Who's protecting the general public? What's the interest in this, Ostrom? Who are you protecting and why? What's the end game here? We'll read it again. When somebody goes off to prison, they're not required to do anything except be there. When somebody is on probation, they have a lot of very strict requirements. Strict requirements including curfews, treatments, and supervision for sex offenders. It is what keeps the community safe, according to Ostrom. Our ability to change behaviors, our ability to keep our community safe is actually in some cases stronger if we keep them local in our community under supervision, as opposed to sending them off to prison when we know in 48 months they're coming back completely untreated. That's a lie. That's a lie. That's demonstrably untrue. You can put requirements on them while they're in prison. And you can hang those requirements over their heads and say, if you do not complete this treatment, you're not going to get out. And see, Minnesota is not a truth in sentencing state. Minnesota is a credit for time served state in the sense of you automatically get 1/3 of your sentence cut off of your sentence before you ever step a foot in prison. So if you get 9 years, you automatically get 3 off. So when they tell you you're doing 9 years, you're only actually doing 6, and you may actually do less. So Ostrom's lying here. Mark Ostrom is lying that he can't be required to do anything while he's in prison. It's hogwash. It's bogus. It's bunk. It's bullshit is what it is. It's Mark Ostrom is a lying sleazeball. There's no way in the world that he can't be required to take those classes. Once again, I witnessed these classes, mandated classes for people who were sitting and doing their time as sex offenders in the Olmsted County Adult Detention Center. If you don't believe me, look it up. They can be required to do it. You can put whatever requirements you want on a person while they're in prison. You can put whatever requirements you want while they're locked up in the local county detention center. They can have requirements to be considered ready to be released. In Minnesota, probation sentences are capped at 5 years for most crimes, but things change when it comes to sex offense. Ostrom said a long probationary term, like the one given to Holt, is based on 2 to 3 year sex offender treatment program along with supervision afterwards. The idea is that the amount of community services that people in those positions generally need is going to take a lot longer than just a typical 2 to 5 years, Ostrom said. The county works with parole officers to keep track of sex offenders, and if they see violations, says Ostrom, they take steps, including sending them to prison to correct their behavior. It's not unusual for people to struggle initially on probation until they finally understand that we're serious, and so we do some corrective measures in there. But for the most part, we're pretty successful keeping the community and victims safe. Does this look safe to you, people who are watching? And I could damn sure guarantee you this kind of crap is happening in your county and in your state, in your region, no matter where you live in the United States. Mark Ostrem says, but for the most part, we're pretty successful keeping the community and victims safe. Really, Mark? Really? This face right here is the face of a person who 17 years ago did this exact same thing and reoffended. Is that keeping the community safe, Mark Ostrom? We should have a whole hell of a lot more people watching this right now. What? How? And here's why this is so important. If Ostrom will cut cushy deals like this for someone who victimizes children, what on God's green earth will he do for his buddy in blue, Shane Roper? You tell me. What do you think he's going to do for his buddy in blue, Shane Roper? If you can have a guy who 17 years ago victimized a young girl at the age of 14, reoffend over the course of 3 years, and then Mark Ostrom, there's no way he didn't know about this guy's criminal history. There's no way he didn't know about his sex offender history. There's no way. What's he going to do for Roper? Who didn't intentionally murder Olivia Flores. It was just a terrible incident where, yes, Trooper Shane Roper was negligent and criminal in his operation of the vehicle in such a way as to cause the death of Olivia Flores. He needs rehabilitation. He needs to understand the severity of his situation, but he needs rehabilitation. He needs a training, and any time in prison that he's going to get for this is just not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough. Do you understand? We have to do something. We have to give him this opportunity to go out and live on the streets so he could be trained and watched and supervised by probation officers and have curfews and all this stuff and go on with his goddamn life. While Olivia Flores is dead, murdered, cold and buried in the ground. And her family has to deal with that emptiness and that hollowness. So we're supposed to believe that Mark Ostrom won't cut a deal for Trooper Shane Roper, where he might do a little bit of time, but he really ultimately needs rehabilitation. Is that what we're supposed to believe? That all that any of these people need is they just need understanding. They need supervision in the community. To keep the community safe, they need to be in the community. Does anybody understand what I'm pointing at here? Does anybody get it? Yes, it was documented 17 years ago. Yes. He took a plea deal then for the same damn thing. Do you guys see? Do you understand why I'm saying what I'm saying about Ostrom? Ostrom's notorious for this kind of stuff. Ostrom does these things. Ostrom doesn't care about the community. He cares about the offenders, giving them a better life. And I have said for a long time, I don't know how you can rehabilitate sex offenders. I really don't. I don't know how you can rehabilitate sex offenders. And I think the case of Kenneth Archer Holt, 43, of Chatfield, Minnesota, is a perfect example of that. But I don't know how you can rehabilitate a trooper, Shane Roper, who was given a slap on the wrist on 4 different occasions. And on the very day that he murdered Olivia Flores, he also exhibited on at least 4 different occasions that very day prior to murdering Olivia Flores the same behavior. But I am very concerned that the guy who would cut the sex offender this kind of deal is going to be as likely, if not more likely, to cut Trooper Shane Roper a deal because it wasn't criminally intentional. People get mad at me because I use the word corrupt too much. They say, "Oh, you use the word corrupt way too much. You overuse it. You overuse it. You prefer dirty, despicable, disgusting. Do you prefer collusion, conspiring, negligent, criminal? Which word do you prefer? Which word describes a prosecuting attorney whose job it is to seek justice for the victims of violent crimes? How do you describe that man? What words do you use to describe Mark Ostrom when his duty is not to the rehabilitation of the offender, it's to get justice for the people who were victimized? What word would you have me use to describe Mark Ostrom? If it's not corrupt, what is it? Negligent? Inept? What word? What word do you want me to use? Minnesota. What word do you want me to use, Olmsted County? What word do you want me to use, people of Rochester? Which word do you want me to use? And then when I tell you to watch out, that he cuts deals for people, you want to look me in the eye, for lack of better terminology, and tell me I'm overreacting. Tell that to the family of these young girls that he molested over the course of 3 years. Tell that to my friend and her daughter and their family, who 17 years ago went through this. See, this isn't just a Mark Ostrom problem. This is an entire problem with the entire system that's been going on for at least 2 decades, if not longer. So when I call Mark Ostrom corrupt, I'm categorically condemning the entire system. I am categorically condemning everybody from the street cops to the investigators to the agencies to the system ran by a guy like Mark Ostrom, who then takes it to the courts and has already agreed to the deal, and a judge has to look at that and go, it's the deal. The system is dirty. And you know what's even worse? The politicians who allow this kind of garbage to happen. When are you going to wake up? When are you going to realize that the system is not out there to protect and keep the community safe? Cops are not out there to protect and keep the community safe. They emblazon protect and serve on the side of their cars, or serve and protect on the side of their cars. They emblazon it, but there are court rulings that tell them over and over and over again, you're not obligated to protect. Cops swoop in when the problem is done. Cops rush in when it's all over and the crying is happening and the blood is on the ground and people are wounded and injured and raped and molested and they're in the hospital and they're being taken care of. Cops swoop in and they clean it up and they call themselves heroes and they take all the evidence and the pictures and the photographs and the victims and they turn it over to a prosecutor, and the prosecutor says, look, I'm watching out for you. And then behind the scenes in the back rooms of the halls of justice, men like Mark Ostrem cut deals with defenders, with defense attorneys. Everybody's entitled to a defense, but they cut deals with public defenders or paid attorneys to get these people these deals. And then they come out and they parade themselves out there and they say things like, this is what's best for the community. This is the rehabilitation of this man. No, you don't rehabilitate people like this. And I'm supposed to believe that Mark Ostrom is not going to cut a deal for Trooper Shane Roper when he lets a rapist walk? He let a rapist walk. God damn it. Well, he's got 25 years hanging over his head. Who cares? In 25 years, the man's going to be 68 years old. And if he just pretends to follow the rules, he's going to be okay as long as he takes the classes. Go take the classes. You poor thing. What happened to you in your childhood that you would want to do this to somebody? Let's rehabilitate you. No, fuck you, Mark Ostrom. Fuck the justice system. You don't like my language? I don't care. This is why people are turning on the justice system. This is why people are turning on prosecutors. This is why people who, like me, tend to lean a little bit more to the conservative end of things are turning on you guys, because this is the crap that you pull. This is what you do. When are you going to wake up? All of you people out there parading around and being angry about the fact that you've got these groomers in the libraries and you got these sex offenders wearing dildos at pride parades, which is disgusting. And people are dumb enough to take their children there. I don't understand that myself. But these people on the normie cons, the rocks and cows caliber people in the state of Minnesota, the rural agrarian conservative types and all across the United States, and the hangers on who are out there drumming up the votes by talking about ending access for children to pride events at libraries and schools and whatnot, which, should be up to the parents, right? Should be up to the parents to control that. But you're bent out of shape about the LGBTQ plus community doing these things, which we all should probably find morally reprehensible on some level. But you're not paying attention to what your prosecuting attorneys are doing. They're letting actual people who are actually victimizing little kids go free. They're literally letting these people go free. Mark Ostrom let this guy walk. Well, he's got to take classes and he's going to be on probation for 25 years. He needs to be behind bars. not working in a bar. He shouldn't be safe anywhere. Well, he's got to register as a sex offender. He was supposed to register as a sex offender before. He raped a 14-year-old girl 17 years ago. She's still dealing with that. You're going to tell her to get over it? And so in swoops Mark Ostrom and cuts a deal with the guy for the same thing, but this time there's multiple victims. And we're supposed to trust that he's going to really stick it to Trooper Shane Roper. And here's the problem, folks. He's done this over and 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 over again. Do you get it? He doesn't give a shit about your community. He doesn't care about the safety of Olmsted County. He doesn't care about the safety of Chatfield, Minnesota, or Rochester, Minnesota, or Dover, Minnesota, or Eyota, Minnesota, or Stewartville, or Byron, or anywhere else. You just go Viola, on and on and on and on and on. He doesn't care. He worries about the offender, and Trooper Shane Roper is the offender, and I believe he will get a deal. Because it was just one time. It was just one time. He didn't mean to. I mean, it was criminal vehicular homicide, and what's another word for homicide, by the way, but murder? He did. Trooper Roper didn't mean to kill Olivia Flores. It was a terrible situation, and he shouldn't have been doing what he was doing, but he didn't mean to kill her. We can reform him. We can rehabilitate him. We got to give him a chance. Because if Kenneth can get a chance, then Trooper Roper should get a chance. Because he served his community for so many years. For so long. At least he wasn't hurting children until he murdered Olivia Flores. Like, all of you need to wake up. Especially you back the blue criminal justice at all times people. You need to wake up and realize that the criminal justice system is not on your side. It's not there to help you. They're there to close files. They're there to get some sort of conviction on the record. And if they can do that by cutting a cushy deal, then they're going to do it because it makes them look good. So that when they go and they run for re-election again, like Mark Ostrom is set to do pretty soon, I don't remember what year. At this point, I don't even care because I don't think anybody's going to give a damn about it because you're all so goddamn stupid and you're also goddamn lazy. I've already got people telling me, just move on. The Roper situation's over. Just move on. Let it go. You're all so vapid and stupid. You worry so much. You see Donald Trump get shot on TV and all you could talk about for 2 weeks is Donald Trump getting shot. But we got a murderer roaming around free in Minnesota who killed an 18-year-old girl who was just doing nothing more than going to the mall to celebrate her upcoming graduation. And you can't be bothered to talk about that. You can analyze the living shit out of the Secret Service and make excuses for them or talk about how they failed or in some cases, some of you are applauding what happened to Donald Trump. You guys could talk about that, but you can't be bothered to worry about Olivia Flores and the guy who murdered her. You can't be bothered to worry about a sex offender, but you can be bothered to worry about the LGBTQ people, the trans people doing creepy things. That will bother you. But this guy, nah, don't worry about it. Well, we gotta trust Mark Ostrem. Trust Mark Ostrom. You're all dumb. You leftists are stupid, and you normie cons are morons. Like, you don't let a rabid dog back out. You put the rabid dog down. And in our society today, you put the rabid dog down by putting it behind bars for a very long time. But not Mark Ostrom. Mark Ostrom's the kind of guy that if a rabid dog bit his grandkid, he'd probably take the rabid dog in to see a vet and get it treatment and tell the kid to just get over it. You can take some shots. It'll be okay in a few years. Hey, look, I know family of Olivia Flores, but that rabid dog bit your daughter. But you got to trust me. I've got what's best in mind for the community here, okay? We got to do what's best for the community, and that's going to be cut a deal for Trooper Roper. Trust me, this works. I've done it millions of times in Olmsted County. I got this all figured out. I got the whole system. I got this whole thing planned out. I got it. It's like I got it on lock, right? I got it. It's like just trust me. Trust me. We're good. We're solid. Don't worry about it. And yet, my friend Chase, who turned in someone like this, that sex offender went back to Owatonna, where Olivia Flores' family lives. That sex offender went back free when Chase caught him trying to meet a young underage boy. And they arrested Chase, and Mark Ostrom is throwing the fucking book at Chase. Wants to throw Chase back in prison for 10 years for catching a sex offender. Any of this make any sense to any of you? Do I sound angry? Do I look angry? You goddamn right I am. Yeah, I'm bitter. Yes, I have an axe to grind. Yeah, I care. No, I don't care if you're offended by how I talk. I don't care. So sick of people thinking that the criminal justice system has got everything in line, got it all on lock. We got it figured out. Everything's going to be fine. They're watching out for us. Folks, I've just demonstrated that Mark Ostrom will literally let the worst amongst us go free. He let Kenneth Archer go free. He just has to complete his treatment and stay law abiding, basically. Don't sexually assault any more kids, Kenny. All right, Kenny, no more sexually assaulting children for another 25 years till you're 68. Okay, keep just no, until you're 68. Don't sexually assault anybody else, and then you're going to be considered good to go. But here's the problem. By the way, he could petition to have his 25-year probation sentence changed if he stays compliant with the rules of his probation for a long enough period of time. So I'm supposed to really believe that Mark Ostrom won't cut a deal with Trooper Shane Roper when he will cut a deal with a sex offender? But nobody cares because it's done and over with. Are you guys going to pay attention to Mark Ostrom? Are you going to start paying attention to your prosecutors in your community and your district attorneys or your county attorneys, whatever the system breaks down to for you in your area? The reason that this happens and we don't have anybody to blame but ourselves is us. These things happen because we let them happen. Literally, these things happen because we let them happen. Chris, you said, it's at the top. It's right, but we're supposed to be at the top. And we're not doing our jobs. And it's time that we did again. I guarantee you that it's not just Mark Ostrem. It's just that Mark Ostrom's on my radar. And all of your county attorneys and prosecuting attorneys should all be on your radar. Just like every corrupt cop should be on your radar. I want you to... No, I don't. Because you will get the book thrown at you, Bip. I guarantee it. Oh, thank you. I needed that. I'm going to wrap it up here, folks. It's been going almost an hour. But I needed to paint this picture because I needed people to understand. Mark Ostrom will cut deals with people who have victimized others in terribly egregious ways. How much more willing will he be to cut a deal for a member of the thin blue line when it was just a terrible accident? Could have been avoided, but he didn't mean to murder Olivia Flores. And I challenge anybody to start taking a look in your own counties, your own cities. Take a look here in Olmsted County. Start looking at the plea deals that are offered continuously just to close cases for some of the most egregious crimes. I really would appreciate it if you guys would help me push this out into all the different parts of the community, not just here, because I really need people to help me reach out and make sure that more cushy plea deals like this do not happen, especially for Roper. That man, if we could, capital punishment to me would not be good enough for him. But I can almost guarantee you that whatever they're offering him will come nowhere near bringing justice for Olivia Flores. If Mark Ostrom, that slime ball of a county attorney, thinks that it was justice to give a repeated sex offender numerous times, repeatedly, to give him no jail time, no prison time, as long as he completes his training. It's disgusting. Get involved, people. Until next time. Sic Semper. Tyrannus.
We are go for liftoff in T-30. Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. Secondary guidance systems engaged. Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark. All systems are a go. All systems are a go. Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at